Arek Hersh was born in Poland in 1928. Born into a Jewish family, Arek had a happy childhood, surrounded by family and friends. Arek's world was shattered when, aged 11, he was taken away to work at a concentration camp. Conditions in this camp were so horrific that after 18 months, only 11 men out of the original 2,500 had survived. From 1940 to 1945, Arek was imprisoned in the Nazi concentration camp of Auschwitz-Birkenau. This is his story.
Arek was 14 and the wagon he was travelling in only had a very small window. It was hot and everybody was so cramped they couldn't even sit down. Some people had some water and some people didn't. After 2 days and one night, through the wagon, they saw guards or SS men with dogs, barbed wire and electric fences.
When they arrived in Birkenau, Auschwitz, they were told men have to go on one side, women and children on the other side.
They made 2 long queues. Mengele, who was a German officer, happened to be on the selection platform. He pointed the finger to the left or to the right. A lot of the people who were chosen to go to the right were fitter men. Children, mothers and elderly men went to the left. At that point, Arek knew something wasn't right. Arek knew if the German soldiers didn't need you, they would kill you. And suddenly, they tried to take a child away from her mother, and she started screaming and SS men ran towards her.
As they ran to the disturbance, Arek decided to go over to the right. He was very lucky. All the people which went to the left-hand side went to the gas chambers. They were gassed and their bodies were burned. Arek and the rest of the prisoners who went right were told to walk into a place called the sauna, a brick-built building, and were told to leave all their clothing on the floor.
Arek had 6 photographs of his family and that was the last he ever saw of the photographs. Arek had his hair shaved off and was forced into another room where he was told to put on his uniform. Striped suits, it was too big for Arek, so he had to roll it up. They couldn't even bath or shower, so very soon they started getting problems with lice. Lice walked ran all over the prisons. Itchy, it was very itchy. The lice lived on their skin.
There were over 1,000 men in the barracks, 3 bunks high, 10 people on a bunk. Arek and the rest of the prisoners slept on hard boards. There was no straw, there were no covers. People snored, moaned, and even died right next to him. When morning finally arrived, the guards allowed Arek and the rest of the prisoners to go to the washroom. In the washroom, there were about 5 buckets of water. Arek was only allowed to dip in his hands and wash his eyes.
Arek lost lots of weight. He was very thin, just skin and bones, because he wasn't fed. He would eat just a small piece of bread in the morning with some black coffee made of burnt wheat. At lunchtime, he got some watery soup with a few leaves swimming around. That was it. Everybody had to live on that for months and years.
Arek's mind couldn't think properly. His body was weak. He was starving all the time. He would think about food constantly.
In Auschwitz, the prisoners were all tattooed. Arek got a number, B7608, on his left arm. It is still there now as a constant reminder. Arek lost 81 members of his family. He only found his sisters 2 years after the war.
Arek will never forget what he went through. He suffered so much. As he says, it was the most horrific thing any human being should ever see. The world should never see that again.
Arek survived several ghettos and concentration camps between the ages of 11 and 16. He was eventually brought to England in August 1945. Only 40 people from Arek's hometown survived the war. Most were killed in the death camp at Chelmno, including members of his family. Arek didn't speak about his experiences until 1995 when he wrote a book, A Detail of History. Arek now shows groups around Auschwitz and gives many talks about his experiences. He is proud to have received an MBE in recognition of this work.